I'd like to commend you and your efforts for coordinating this important conference even in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic, while at the same time making sure that the conference itself delivers the highest standard of learning as you have in past years. Today, I'll give you a brief update on the impact of business development as it relates to the clean energy economy. Now, first, as we talk about, economic development is really critically important in this moment because so many people have lost their jobs, businesses have gone have gone under, many are not going to come back. And this is particularly true in African American and Latino communities. I've heard just recently that 41% of all of the African American businesses that have closed because of COVID will not reopen, compared to 20% of the white businesses. And so this important conference is happening at exactly the right time for this conversation. As the chair of Energy and Telecommunications, I really think that there's an opportunity in that field in order to address both the issue of bringing back our economy by simultaneously providing full-time jobs at a living wage with benefits. Here in the state of New York, energy is not just a commodity for when you turn your lights on and off, but it's also the sixth largest industry, and so it employs people at every single level. Now, we here in the state of New York have created some of the most aggressive climate change goals in the entire country. Last year, me and my colleagues passed a piece of legislation called the CLCPA, otherwise known as the Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act. And like I said, it's the most aggressive climate standard in the entire U.S. Economy-wide, it creates a net zero carbon emissions by the year 2050 and achieves 100% carbon-free electricity by the year 2040. It also creates a climate action council that ensures that 35 to 40% of all investments in climate change and clean energy go to disadvantaged or frontline communities. I have also created a companion bill that creates an environmental justice board around the equity for people of color. And so, we're not just looking at this economy-wide, statewide, but also just drilling down to look at the neediest communities, because we understand in the context of environmental justice that Black, Latino, and poor communities are the most burdened by pollution, carbon emissions, and the like. And so we must make sure that there's some equity in the context of how we provide economic development. There's a number of agencies that we work with in this. NYSERDA, the New York State Energy and Research Development Authority, and the Power Authority have a number of programs and dollars behind those programs, more importantly, to create these opportunities. And so when we look at the environment, we see a lot of different problems. Carbon, water standards, right? How do you produce energy and then simultaneously keep your environment clean? And so it's both a challenge and an opportunity, simultaneously. And so there's a couple of things that people should be paying attention as you start talking about building a green or clean energy economy. The first thing is generation, right? And so we're moving from fossil fuels like gas and coal, right, and oil to clean energy like solar, wind, hydropower, digesters, heat generation out of the earth, right? Geothermal generation as well. And so there are opportunities building those new energy infrastructure, right? I like to say that the more electricity we use, the less energy we use, right? The more electricity we use, the less energy we use. And it sounds oxymoronic, but the reality is that we're really, going away from a lot of other different things and going towards more electricity, because it's easy to create electricity in a clean way in using the modes that I talked about: solar, hydro, wind, geothermal, and the like. And so we want to, simultaneously encourage the use of those. And so going into the development of those different energy sources is one of the ways that we can be creating full-time jobs at a living wage with benefits and at the same time building our economy. And so when we think about a clean energy economy or a green energy economy, a green collar job is nothing but a blue or white collar job used for a green purpose, right? And so we need carpenters, we need electricians, we need accountants, marketing people, salespeople, right? You need energy auditors, right? And so the jobs run the gamut, just like the opportunities run the gamut. In addition to generation, you're going to need to do a number of different other activities too that sometimes people don't pay attention to in the context of this new energy economy. In the state of New York, we have about 2.5 million cars. We're going to have to probably replace the entire fleet of vehicles with electrical vehicles. And so that's something that has to happen right now. Everything from passenger cars to buses to tractors, trucks, you name it, limousines, taxis, all are going to have to be replaced with electric vehicles. So there's opportunities there in terms of charging stations. And then that also relates to the notion of battery storage. And so although we talked about generation, battery storage is another area in which we really need to expand and where there's a lot of economic opportunity in the context of the clean energy economy. And then we also need to kind of work with developing, conservation. People need to learn how to conserve energy. And so there's really going to be a whole economy that's built around teaching people demand response. When to wash your clothes, when's the best time to do things that require a lot of electricity, either in your home or in your business, right? And so there's going to be a whole field around it. And when we talk about the CLCPA, 10% of that is going to be at conservation. So we're going to need to be steeped in that activity. And then lastly, you want to be able to make sure that we are retrofitting homes. And again, these are oftentimes what we used to think of as blue collar jobs, which have now become green collar jobs in terms of like carpenters to help seal up homes. The average home in the state of New York has the equivalent of an open window when you talk about all the spaces between doors and windows and cracks in the foundation and those kind of things. And so retrofitting homes and making them more energy efficient is a whole field and is a whole economic development activity. And more importantly, in the context of COVID, we can actually do these jobs socially distanced. Many of them are outside. Many of them don't require a bunch of people, huddled together to do the jobs. And so they're good jobs for us to be looking at in terms of how do we build our economy, during COVID. And so energy generation, right, conservation, right, education, and renovation are the things that we need to be thinking about in the context of clean energy economies and where the economic opportunities are created. And I think that this is, again, particularly important in this moment. And I think it's also particularly important for Black and Latino communities who have been most heavily hit both by the pandemic, but then also because of the economic impact of the pandemic. And so I look forward to working with you all as we develop these ideas. As you need access to those programs, please reach out to me and my office. Remember, you are the people who were here the day before yesterday, and you're going to be the people who are going to be here the day after tomorrow. So keep bringing good into the world and let no good be lost. God bless you all. Take care.
Excellent.
Let no good be lost. Oh, wow. Wow. How befitting. So this has just been a tremendous session. One that's been inspiring, enlightening, and motivating. I don't want to stay on the stage too much. I know that there are many questions. I have questions. I'm not going to start with questions. I'm going to give you the opportunity to do your questions. If you have your video on, you can raise your hand, but most of you don't have your video on, so you can use the chat box. But let's start the questions. Mark is ready, Alice is ready, and Matthew is ready. Okay, Okay. Oh, okay. All right. Here we go. The first one is coming from our alumnus. One of the very well. He doesn't like when I say that, but he is one of our very first graduates out of the School of Business, and he has been with us all morning long. And he says Matthew Putman made such a strong point in pointing out that pre-COVID-19 we focused on work. Post-COVID-19 we will switch from work focus to production focus. I also strongly feel that another transformation we will make in post-COVID-19 environment will be to go from communicating to connecting. Oh, that's strong. As we find ourselves in the middle of COVID-19, does Matthew have any thoughts on how we can begin to move from simply communicating, AKA Zoom, and I myself am Zoom fatigued already, to better communicating, to better connecting with each other? Matthew, it's on to you.
Yeah, I mean, I think that this was a great point, that what I realized is that this isn't, today we're connecting because you brought us together, Dean Roll, in a way that is connecting, but the tool itself is not connecting us. So how can we connect? I think that we have to start to figure out what we want to build. What has failed in this? So, you know, what if we're forced to socially distance? How do you still make connections? I think that a big part of it is defining a goal. And first of all, thinking of that goal not as work, but as the kind of world we'd like to see. Now, the kinds of things that, you know, I connect with other jazz musicians by playing in a band and doing something that is completely improvisation. We don't know what's going to come of it, you know, and it moves faster than it should. We don't even know why this happens, that we can hear each other and be able to move and pivot. Experimentation is a bit like that. And we've often in society forgotten how to experiment. And, you know, getting into whatever rooms, whether it's chat rooms or in physical space, it's about, you know, trying to see what society has told us is not possible. So, I mean, I could ask that of anybody here, of what's not possible. I mean, I have things that I think we should connect on, which are things like, you know, we've been concerned about food production, or we've been concerned about food in general, right? So how is it that you have both carbon emissions from factory farms, you have inhumane treatment, but at the same time, in chemistry labs, we're able to grow meat out of proteins. We're able to grow vertical farms out of a connection between solid state physicists working in lighting. And most of all, the creativity to say, what would we like our homes and our spaces to be with this? So it's about finding the right people together to lead to those dreams that we have been told are not a part of society. We've been told that you have to fund agriculture the way it currently is, instead of rethinking what agriculture should be. And we could go on and on about this. Nobody wants to hear how those connections are, but those connections are like my improvisational free jazz group, hopefully more talented. But